There we go. What's going on, guys? So this one's actually going to be a quick video today, and I got the idea for this from a book called Atomic Habits. Great book, and I'm just going to give you some key takeaways of some things that might help you here. So a lot of us, have ideas of what good habits are and bad habits are. Now, whether or not they're good or bad doesn't really matter here. Just think about the habits that you want to keep, improve on, and then the habits that you might want to drop or get rid of, right? Or at least get, lessen them. You probably want to get rid of them if you're thinking of them that way, though. So, people get stuck, for example, with habits that they built over time. It sort of snowballs and compounds and wires in your brain, so it becomes sort of like your personality. Especially the longer and longer you've been doing it. Like, you always wake up the same way, you always drive to work the same way, it's like muscle memory, and you're not even really thinking about it, right? That's like it's kind of like a scary thing people notice, like when they're driving their car and it's like the same way they always go, and it's like they kind of get distracted, or they think they get distracted for a while, and then they kind of like pop back, like, oh shit, like they weren't asleep, right? But they were just going through the motion that they've already done over and over, and so they woke back up, which actually is like pretty. I think most people who go through that, especially while driving, it's like a pretty scary thought. Like, what was I doing? Like, do I just know what I'm doing, or did I it feels like you weren't really there in the moment, and you could go through your whole life that way. So, to keep this video kind of short, we have a lot of habits that compound through our whole life, right? And so they're wired to our brain in a certain way. And what we want to do is create a way. You don't have to be ultra disciplined. You do require discipline. Don't get me wrong. Like, let's say that you're scheduling your day in a certain way. Like, you're maybe like time blocking, right? Like, this is when I wake up. This is when I do like a deep work session, and work on this project, like some sales or some video editing or whatever it is there in that deep work block for a few hours. You want to build the consistency and build the habits so that they help each other out, right? So like, for example, if you're trying to develop a new habit, then of course you want to work on that every day. It might make it easier to always do it at the same time of the day, like committing to around the same time. And then maybe you can also stack that habit with something that you already do, right? Like an easy example is, a lot of people, for example, like as soon as they get out of bed, like they turn their alarm off and then they make their bed. And you can keep that momentum going, right? Like, that's such a simple habit stack that you might have already been doing, of course, like your whole life, right? Like, alarm, make your bed, maybe put your slippers on or something, and then brush your teeth. Whatever it is that you normally do, you do it in an order that you're used to, right? And you can break that order, or you can stack things to it. So sometimes it's easier to develop a habit if you stack it on with something else. Like, let's say that you want to start meditating more, and you want to start having deep work sessions, let's say earlier in the morning, before there's a bunch of distractions during your day and before everyone else is up. Well, so maybe after you wake up in the morning, that can be one of the first things that you do is meditate in silence, right? And maybe like put yourself somewhere where you won't fall back to sleep again, but meditate in silence. No, like don't look at your phone, right? Like that would be a habit that you might want to remove. Is don't look at your phone first thing. Basically, meditate in silence. And you don't need like a meditation track or something that'll keep you focused. Because it would be easier if you just focus on your breath and you don't overthink about all the things from your past, what you have to do today, this and that. So start meditating. And then you could say, as soon as you're done meditating, you go straight. Nothing else, nothing interrupts you. You don't check your phone. You don't do anything else. You go straight from meditating right into the deep work. And that might actually create more of a sense of flow for you. People talk about being in a flow state while they do deep work. And the reason that they call it deep work, right, is because, it's, number one, it's not like checking emails. Like, that's all, like, shallow work. Like, it's kind of like BS, like busy work, but it's not the real work. The real work's probably what you've been avoiding. So you want to eat the frog or do the hardest thing, which is the deep work. And it also helps if you do deep work when you're in a flow state. So, and we've all had a moment like this, whether we're playing a sport or playing an instrument or just working on something, and like there's a moment where it's like there's some friction in the beginning, like it's a bit challenging, like it feels like it's not working. And then there's moments where it feels just like boom, boom, boom. It's smooth, like you're really getting a bunch of work done. And you're like, whoa, like what's going on? Like that was really productive, or it just felt really like natural. Like that's the state you want to enter. And that's a great example of habit stacking. You can also do habit replacement too, right? So let's say, for example, you are trying to lose weight or cut back on sugar or something like that. And let's say that you like sweets or Coca-Cola or something like that, right? So I know this might not feel easy in your current position, but what you want to do basically is trade the habit. So you have to consciously think about, like, number one, maybe you just don't buy those things and put them in your house, right? Because that way, some people will just like eat out of boredom, or they get like sad or emotional or something, and they eat because of that. So number one, don't have like the Twinkies or the Coca-Cola inside your house. Like you could just buy healthier snacks, and if you do eat, you'll just go for those. Now, that's one way of replacing the habit. You could also, like, let's say it's the Coca-Cola example, right? Every time you go to reach for, or you start going to the kitchen for a Coca-Cola, instead, being conscious and aware of this, you go for the water. You just drink water, right? And the water will fill you up. Funny enough, side note to this, Coca-Cola and like a lot of sodas, it's a bunch of sugar, right? There's a bunch of stuff that's not too great for you in those, but there's a bunch of sugar, so it's really sweet, and there's a bunch of salt in it too. So it's actually kind of interesting, like, because salt dehydrates you, right? So you want to drink more. It actually makes you want to drink more soda, which is crazy. It's a really good marketing idea, right? Like, they make a lot of money because of that. But that's just a tangent to maybe another reason why you might want to quit some of these different habits that aren't really serving your highest quality self, your highest quality life, right? So if you replace that habit, like every time you want to go for a beer or a Coca-Cola or whatever you do, you drink water instead. Or, I don't know, you think about playing a video game and then you decide to do some push-ups, or you think about hopping on TikTok, and then you decide to read 10 pages, right? You can replace all these habits, and then you can also make them easier, like I talked about earlier, by habit stacking. Like, you kind of become on a roll if you've got all these habits. Now, the one thing I will say is you're an absolute unit or a machine if you can build a ton of habits at once. Like, I have all of the respect for you. That's a difficult thing for a lot of people. So if you're trying to develop a bunch of new habits at once, I might recommend, because people say, and I forget the number exactly, but they say that it takes, I don't know, 21 days or 30 days, somewhere around there, to build a habit or to form a habit. So you have to do it every day for that 21, 30-day period, which is really not that long. Like, time flies. Especially if it's like a habit that's only going to take like a pretty small portion of your day in comparison to the rest, right? Like going to the gym for an hour or whatever. Like that's pretty easy. Or reading, or like, and it might not feel easy because there's some initial resistance, like you're not doing that habit yet. But what I'm trying to tell you is, because of that, you might want to focus on one habit at a time. So maybe the first 21 days you are working on exercising, and then the next 21 days or the next 30 days, whatever you do, you focus on reading more. And then the next 30 days you focus on spending the extra time you have after work on building a business or learning a skill or finding a mentor who can teach you how to invest. Just like something like that, right? Like maybe networking, right? Like going to more events where people have their own businesses, and because this is a great example, right? Like tons of people go to work, they go to the gym, they eat, and they go to bed, and they don't even really do anything else. So it's like very clear why they're stuck in a loop, and they're not. Let's say they want a better job, or they want to not have a job, and they want to financially support themselves in a different way, right? Like, the reason they're not breaking that habit is because they keep doing the things over and over, and they say they become maybe like somewhat socially reclusive, meaning that they're like a hermit, like they don't really like go out much. And there's a bunch of that with like remote workers. Like, they just like work in their apartment, or they kind of stick to themselves. So I encourage you to include that as a part of your day or as a part of your week. It's like, even if there's a little initial resistance to that habit, is being a bit more social throughout your day, and also maybe allotting a bit of time after the gym and work to go be social for a little while during your day. And I'll leave it at that. So that's kind of the gist of developing good habits, and I hope this helps. You got this, bro.